It is 4:04. Call the meeting to order. Roll call of commissioners. Commissioner Allison.
Present.
Commissioner Colucci.
Present.
Commissioner Grace.
Present.
Commissioner Lozzi.
Present.
Commissioner Salona. Present. We have a sign-in sheet, I guess.
Okay.
Pass that around. The purpose of today's meeting is to interview the candidates for the position of executive director. The first thing we're going to do, and I handed out, are the questions that were developed with input from the commission members and UMass. Has everyone had a time to take a look at the questions? And does anyone have any further changes to them?
So are we restricted to these questions?
No, so these will be, well, that's a great question. So we will ask everybody the same 13 questions,
Okay.
and then we can follow up with whatever question we would like at that point. And again, it's all about their professional history and experience, so it's stuff that they touched on in their questions or stuff that they didn't. So, and then at the end, we will ask them if they have questions for us.
So when you say we will follow up with our own questions, how far can we ask questions? How long? How many questions would that be?
We have an hour for each candidate. And so it depends a little bit on how long people talk.
Yeah.
My thinking was that we would hold our questions until the end, so we make sure we get through everyone's 13 questions, and then, and if we have to go over, obviously we'll go over it.
Yeah.
But does that make sense to hold our questions to the end?
Our questions would have to be to each candidate also.
No, you can ask, if someone worked in the town of Worcester, city of Worcester, you can say, oh, in Worcester, this happened. But you wouldn't have to ask that to the other person.
Okay.
So those can be person specific. It's the standardization is these 13. So from there, you can ask individual questions about people's.
Who will ask these questions?
So yep. So
all right.
then that's still no. These are all great questions.
Correct.
So I was going to recommend that I ask all the questions.
Mm-hmm.
We did this in the screening interview. We just had one person ask it, so everyone else could listen and take notes. I've talked to these people before in the screening interview, so I've heard some of these questions asked and the answers. So I'm comfortable trying to take notes while they're listening. While several of you haven't heard from them at all. So I think if that makes sense, that was what I was going to suggest.
Sounds good.
You okay? So the process is we have the first candidate, Anthony Marino, comes in at 4:15. The second candidate, Angie Lopez Ellison, comes in at 5:15. The third candidate, Jim Arsenault, comes in at 6:15. We have pizza ordered for 6 o'clock. If people are hungry, ginger ale and some other things for us, just because it's going to be a little bit of a time. Here's what I'm proposing for the process after the interviews. I'm going to ask everyone to name their top 2 candidates. So we're going to have 3 people in, ask you to name your top 2. Then I'm going to ask you to name your top candidates and what you would consider to be their positive aspects. What are the pieces that you think make them the best fit in your mind for the position? As board members, we all bring our own expertise to this process, and I think we're lucky to have several good candidates coming before us. After we name and describe our preferred candidate, if there is a majority for one individual, I will call for a motion to recommend that individual for the position and that we enter into contract negotiations with them. We can then have further discussion on that motion if necessary. And it's a public meeting, and well, there's no one else here. So I was going to say we welcome people here, but they can't speak during the interviews. So,
Technical question.
sure.
After we picked a new executive director, and there'll be negotiation after, and if that one fails, what would be the procedure?
Yep. So I did ask that question. One of the I think reasons for asking for people's top 2 is that so that we all understand who all of our second. It doesn't always have to be the same person, but is there some continuity there between the second person? But
Good point.
yes. But yeah, it's a great question, and I was told not to get ahead of myself when I asked that question because we haven't got anywhere yet. So, but it does happen. No, and it's we're offering the position to somebody. To your point, it doesn't mean that they end up accepting it. So,
Correct.
yeah. Sam.
Just from my experience in depositions,
in dealing with stenographers. It's difficult if you have to let the question come forward, let the answer come forward. Once people start to either interject or talk over, then it's very difficult to get a record from the stenographer. So I would say when you ask a question, if you want to ask a follow-up, let the person answer, then you can do a follow-up. And likewise, the candidates ought to be told that they can answer, and when their answer's complete, they can stop. That way if there's follow-up. But once it happens because people are human, and they want to ask something quickly, and it makes it difficult to have a record because she's trying to keep voices and names. So it's just easier if you do it that way. Let somebody answer. If you have a follow-up, ask the follow-up. And then if a person wants to add to their answer, we just don't want like two people speaking at once. That's it.
Understandable. Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Welcome, Anthony, to the interview for the executive director position. Just a few words. We won't go through introductions because you know everybody. We were going to go through 13 questions, and the same questions that we ask everybody.
Okay.
At the end, we will ask any follow-up questions, and then you can ask us questions just to make sure that we get all our questions asked before you ask us questions.
Excellent.
Does that work? Okay.
Sure.
So we're just gonna, and I'm gonna be the one that's gonna be asking the questions, just because I have been on an interview with you before.
Sure.
So it's more important for others to hear and take notes. So it works well. We're both at the ends of the table.
Makes sense.
First question. Can you describe your direct experience and level of involvement in overseeing the daily operations of a department, organization, or agency?
Yes, and I'd just like to start off by just saying I appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys. And this is a job that I aspired to get my whole career. So to get to this point in my life and have this opportunity, I just want to thank everybody to allowing me to be here today to do that. Yes. Could you repeat the
Totally,
question?
that's absolutely fine. Can you describe your direct experience and level of involvement in overseeing the daily operations of a department, organization, or agency?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So I do that at the commission currently now. I have 3 superintendents, which are in charge of the water department, the sewer department, the water plant, and I used to have someone that was down at the wastewater plant, and moving forward, that's something I'd like to put in place, to have someone down the wastewater plant. We always had somebody down there. We currently don't. It's a needed position, so I'd like to add that position at some point. I work with them every single day. They come into my office and sit with me, and I go through the work orders, and I go through what their daily routine is, and what's their needs, and so forth. I run all the operations, from the mechanic to purchasing to those disciplines, the water department, the sewer department, the water plant, the sewer plant. I'm involved daily with all those aspects of the commission. And I've been doing that for 21 years as chief engineer. And I love doing that. I love the opportunity to sit and talk to these guys, get their opinions, and give them my advice throughout the day. Normally, what I do when I do that is I take all the emails that I get from counselors, constituents, and so forth, and I sit with them and I go through each one of those emails and what's going on. I let them know that needs to be scheduled for the week and so forth. So I have a vast experience of running an organization like this, just for the fact that I need to touch everything. Obviously, I also have an engineering department that is sort of the hub of the commission on my side of the aisle, meaning the construction side. And the engineering department is really a hub to help all the departments. So they use them as a resource for plans, for information they need to get out of the office. So it really is a hub, for running the organization.
Okay, thank you. This is going to sound somewhat similar.
Yep.
Can you describe your experience in managing a water, sewer, or wastewater facility or organization?
Yeah.
It's similar. It's, yeah, for not everybody is. This is why these are the same questions for
Yeah,
everybody.
that's fine.
Yeah. So is there anything you'd want to add from your first question?
Sure.
or answer?
I just, I mean, I was involved in the writing and the 5-year contract for the water plant, and also for the sewer department, the sewer plant. We've done 2 20-year contracts up to this point. We just finished doing, well, I shouldn't say finished, it's been 4 years, where we went through the plant and developed a new 20-year contract with, as I know the board is, I speak about it every month, with the ICIs and so forth. Just that I do have my hands in the plants, aspects of the plants, and all the water and sewer and drain operations at the commission.
Okay. Can you describe your direct experience and degree of involvement in developing and managing an agency budget? Describe the size of the budget you have managed.
Sure. So the commission's budget's $36 million. I have worked hand in hand with the previous treasurer, Dave Travers, and now the current treasurer, Ryan Boisel. I sit with Ryan, and him and I go through line item by line of every budget item. And why do I do that with him is because a lot of the items are on the construction side, ordering materials and so forth. So I sit with him. We have each department head come in and sit with the 2 of us, and we go through each one of their department's needs. And, you know, I sort of do an explanation of why did we have to order this? Why was it this much money last year? Why did we spend it? Why do we need more money this year? So as far as the budget's concerned, I've worked hand in hand with Ryan and Dave Travers. I've done that since I've been the chief engineer. I need to have that input because as the year goes on and the needs of the different departments, I have to just make sure that their needs are met. So I have, you know, I've done that for the time I've been chief engineer.
Thank you. We all leave jobs for various reasons. Can you tell us about the last job you left and how or why it ended?
Sure. The job I had before this was, believe it or not, the Commissioner of Public Works.
Mm-hmm.
And the Commissioner of Public Works, I did not stay down there very long. I knew the mayor at the time, Edward Clancy. I had passed my PE exam, and the city did not have a Public Works commissioner. He had called me and asked me to come down there. I think that had a lot to do with funding. I did tell him that at the time that my heart is here. I've been here so long, and I've always aspired to stay into the water and sewer industry. So I did go down there for, I think it was 6 months. I think he felt at the time that I had a very good relationship with all the counselors, and for me to get the votes to get appointed wasn't going to be very difficult. So I did go down there, and I helped them out until such time they could find a replacement to run that job. At that time, Danny was the chief engineer here, and then he became the executive director, and I moved back as the chief engineer. Yeah.
Can you describe your experience managing multiple large projects simultaneously? Give an example.
Sure. I'm doing that currently. I'm managing the CSO project with the construction of we just completed a $40 million stormwater pump station. In lockstep with that is also all the pipe work involved in that, and that project was going on simultaneously. Also, the wastewater treatment plant has a $75 million contract. That project, again, is coming to completion. It is the most amount of work and dollar value the commission has ever spent since I've been here. It has been, without a doubt, the last 5 years have been the most hectic I've ever had here at the commission. All three of the projects are coming to its conclusion, and they're successful. They're all done. They have, each one of those projects have had so many problems that it's almost like nothing went right. As you know, as the board knows, the gas company, getting a transformer, jacking under the Lynn Way, we had a collapse of the thing. It's like everything went wrong. So I have been, it was a lot of balls in the air, but, thankfully, we got through it, and I think so far, everything has been successful, so.
Thank you. Are you a leader or a manager, and can you describe?
That's a good question. Leader or a manager? So I'm going to say I'm both. In this way, I'm mostly a leader, and I'll give you an example with my department. What I like to do is I come up with an idea or something that I think should be changed. I go to my department and I give them the global idea. And I let I have three the engineering department here, you guys should be proud of it. I have three very good people in there, very smart, very competent people. What I do is I usually, as a leader, sort of give them an idea, and then I let them run with it. I said, you guys I have ideas, but you guys come up with ideas. As that usually develops, they'll then come to me and ask me for help if they struggle with something. And so what do? That is when I start to manage it. I say, look, I can help you with this, or this should be done this way, or I've seen this done this way. So let's try going this direction. I like your idea. Let's go try. So I think I do both. The superintendents, I let them run their departments. Because they have to know what needs they have, what guys can do. So I give them advice. Again, I think it's more of a leadership type of role. But when they have problems, they come to me and we sit down. And sometimes I use resources of my department. Sometimes I use resources of an engineering firm. But then I manage that. Then I manage it. But more of a leader. I like to think of myself as more of a leader than managing.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Can you describe your experience working with purchasing, RFPs, specifications, contracts?
Sure. RFPs. So the water treatment plant is a 5-year RFP. That 5-year contract, I wrote part of it, sat down, wrote it. The 20-year contract you had mentioned, Mike, on that we just signed. That is, we had multiple meetings following through, providing the engineering firm that did develop that RFP. But I was the resource, or the engineering was the resource, or what's needed, what has happened in the past. I have done RFPs for small little projects. We have a little project, a drainage issue in someone's neighborhood, a couple water main replacements. So I work with the purchasing agent, the past one and the current one. There's no way I couldn't. I have to be engaged with them. So yeah, I've done a lot of that work.
Okay, thanks. What is your vision for this agency 5 years from now?
So, a few things. One is technology. I'm big on technology. I've been very limited. With the engineering department, because that's what I'm in charge of. But the technology that I brought to the engineering department is we've developed a work order system. We developed a GIS system, and the reason why I felt the need for that, and how it's so important that we have those things in place, is that for example, the GIS system. The GIS system, we digitized I had every single plan digitized. Everyone in the vault had never been done. When the city has projects and they look for information, we get it to them like that. There's no struggle anymore. They need something. I have a very good GIS person, Ashley Keeley, she's phenomenal. She's a master at that, and so that has helped facilitate contracts that the city's running. So anytime you see the intersections, the new intersections that are done, all that information that's provided there comes from my department. And so stuff like that I think is very good. I'd love to do something with the meters. They've got the meter technology's improved immensely. They've got, the meters today have the ability to give you live data off the meters instead of a 3-month billing cycle. So, I mean, there is technology out there, and I would love to expand on our technology here. I think it's important to have the right people in place. Again, I was able to cultivate the engineering department. I hired the 3 engineers that are, the 2 engineers in Ashley in the department, and to have that freedom and that ability to put those type of people in places really helps someone in my position do their job, so, yeah.
Okay, thank you. How would you support and motivate the employees out in the field?
It's a great question. I have a very good relationship with the workers next door, okay? And not every, but a lot of afternoons around 3 o'clock, I go into the garage when they come in at the end of the day, and I walk around the garage and I talk to them. I talk to each individual, whoever, wants to talk to me. And I talk to them and I ask them how the day went, what they did, what can I do to help you. I'll give you an example. Paving, okay? They were struggling with how to do trenches, and the guys were saying, look, we load everything up on a backhoe, the front bucket of a backhoe, the compactor, the rake, and we're driving a backhoe down the road with all the stuff on it. They said, it would be great if we had some type of trailer. So I said, you know what, that makes sense. So I bought them a trailer, and I had the mechanic, Ernie Murphy, build something on that trailer to put the compactor, to put the rakes, to put the thing. So now they have a trailer. So now they hook up a trailer, and they go and they do their job. So the fact that I just went next door and just listened to them and said, hey, what can help you? I implemented that, put that in place, and they just love that's done. Those are the things. So I have a good working relationship with the guys. They will do anything for me. If I say, look, I need you to fill a pond, they don't even question it. They just go and do it. I do have a strong relationship with them. I do get along with most people, and if not everybody in this place, and I do like communication. I think communication is the key word that this place needs. Communicate. You need to communicate with people. I do communicate with them. I have the mechanic, Ernie Murphy, will come in, sit with me if he's got a problem, and I talk and I walk him through some things, whatever he wants to talk about. So I think it's important that those guys next door are appreciated. I think it's important that they're heard. So I try to do that. And they're all good guys, they really are. They want to do well. They really do.
All right, thank you. How would you balance technical decision-making with public relations when residents are concerned with rates and service?
So public relations. So I think I think our website is a great tool to get information out. I think a few, I mean, it's been about maybe a year now, you got, the board had tasked the commission to update the website. That was done out of my department. I think that is a great tool to get messages out. Again, it's a lot of the stuff is communication. I try to get the superintendents to reach out to the counselors when they're doing work. I try to get them to, if there's a project in the area, to just to have a good open line of communication. I think I answered your. I think I answered your question. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think, yep, in terms of, it's just communicating with the public, so
Yeah.
website.
Yep.
What strategies do you use, so we're on number 11, just to give you a context here.
Sure.
What strategies do you use when trying to convince the public, an executive board, or an elected officials about the need to fund a capital project?
So I think that I think you need to display a need for why that should be done. And usually it's from experience of maybe a constituent having trouble or a neighborhood having trouble. Usually when what I would do, and I'll give you an example of the water department. I like to have them look at the superintendent look at certain areas. So we let's say we're doing a CSO project, and he tells me that Main Street has multiple breaks in it and so forth. So I like to get the input from my superintendents to sort of give me feedback where they see there's needs in the system that need to be done. And then I take that back and say, that, and try to weigh out what's important. Obviously, we're always limited for money and funding and so forth. So, I like to, I really like to, the guys that have the feet on the ground and know what's going on out in the field is extremely important to get their feedback. So, I think that's a.
Can you, no, actually, there's a misnumber here. There's 14 questions, apologize.
No
There's
worries,
a
no
misnumber
worries.
here. Tell us about a time when you challenged an established process or the way things have always been done. What was the situation? What did you do differently? And what was the result?
Okay. Claims. When I first became chief engineer, we would get claims. Someone send in a claim that they blew out their tire, they got flooded out, they had something went wrong, and it was always the executive director would look at it. Some would get paid out, some wouldn't get paid out. So I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, I said, this is crazy. There's no rules to this. So what I did is I set up a sheet that every time a claim comes in, they log the person's name, the address. We assign it a number. It gets filed. On that claim sheet, it goes to the chief engineer, myself. I determine which department is in charge of it. It goes to that department. That department writes a letter or writes a memo saying what had happened. That then comes back to me, it goes to the executive director. If the value is under $500, the executive director makes the decision. If it's over $500, we then send it to a lawyer, which is Steve Kiley here, and Steve Kiley then deals with the claim. But that process had never been in place, and I set that process up to, there's files on that now, so so anybody wants to go back and look what happened to that claim, it's filed, it's numbered. So that was one thing that had always been different, and I organized it to be done that way. More globally, secondly, my department. I changed some of the jobs in my department, and one of them I mentioned earlier was the GIS one. We never had a GIS person, so I So I changed and I added that position to the engineering department. So that was a change globally that would affect everybody at the commission, that had been changed. And I'm proud to say that my department's mostly women. I have two girls and one guy, so they're all great.
Our organization needs a leader who's willing to adopt new technologies, processes, and ideas to improve outcomes. Tell us about an innovation you championed, how you identified the opportunity, how you implemented it, and what the impact was.
So I think I touched upon this already.
Yep.
And that's two things, the GIS system that I mentioned before and a work order system. So I'll explain what the work order system is really quickly. I think you guys should know this. So when work was done in the past, it was kind of written on a piece of paper or whatever. So we now have a system where every morning the superintendents give this to Ashley, and she logs the job in to the computer system. Who's there, who worked, why they worked, what the problem was it solved? And that's accounted now. So now looking in the future, if someone said on 3 Johnson Street, what's going on there, we can go to 3 Johnson Street. Now when we go to 3 Johnson Street, we might find 5 entries. And you know what? Those 5 entries are the same problem. It happened 5 times. So now I know there's a problem on Johnson Street. Something's going on Johnson Street. So that is again, those systems have helped out. I think everybody at the commission. So yeah.
Last question.
Sure.
Why should you move forward in the process?
So I've been here a long time. 35 years. I was born and raised in Lynn, okay? My parents, my mother immigrated at age 13. My grandparents came here in the early 1900s. I live in Lynn. My parents live in Lynn. I've always lived in Lynn. I mean, this is my community. So I have the experience. I know there's a lot of minorities and a lot of immigrants in the city, but my family went through all this. I have experience. I get it. I understand it. I understand what they go through. I understand the hardships that they had. I know it exactly from my mother. My mother didn't speak a word of English when she came here, and she's fluent in English now, but she didn't speak English. I have an incredible relationship with the city councilors. They know me. They call me. I get calls on the weekends. Sometimes they call me just to talk to me. I think in a city like this, you need to have that type of communication. I've always felt that one of the more important things of my position and my job is really to help the council, help the mayor's office. I get it. I understand they deal with a lot of problems, a lot of situations, and I'm there to support them. And this organization really could be incredible. It really could be. Just if I can elaborate a little bit more, I would like to, for example, have weekly meetings with staff, and which has not been done. And the value I see in doing that is I get to put all the department heads in the room, and they get to, instead of I see them individually every day, I'm going to put them in the room where they all can talk to each other because things overlap. I think I have. I think I can lead this place that way. Secondly, I have a great relationship with the workers here, in the office, next door, and I think that relationship I have with them supports everybody, the councilors, the mayor, and the residents of Lynn who need to be responded to. I think I'm aligned really well to do that. I've seen it from many angles, and I've always sort of been a little bit pigeonholed in what I do, and it's hard, I'm not the boss. But I really feel that strongly I can move this place forward. I want to bring technology here. I want the communication with the city. I want transparency. I want this place to be, this place could be awesome. It could be awesome. It really could be. And I think I can do that.
Okay. Those were the set questions, and now it's time for commissioners, sorry, Coco, to informer, right, I know, to ask follow-up questions. Rich, do you have any follow-up questions? Coco.
Yeah, I have
Sure,
follow-up
sure, of
questions.
course.
So 35 years at Lynn Water, and I'm so amazed by your vision about what to do and your wishes moving forward. But you have 35 years here. Have you not found any ways to push for these while you were still, while being here for 35 years?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yes, as much as I think I could. I think I've changed a lot of the way things have been done. I think my relationship with the counselors, helping them out, is something that I worked very hard at doing. I've always worked hard at doing. So as much as I felt myself being limited to what I can do, I'm not the boss. I can't make all the decisions. And I respect the boss. The boss is the boss. But I do give input, and I do, give out my frustrations on things. But I this is something that, I'm just limited to what I could do.
Yeah.
I do believe if you look at my department that I do have influence over, you will see that it is a shining star, that department. It really is. And I think I can adopt that philosophy with the rest of the commission. And I do feel that in the aspects that I could do, make progress and move forward, that I've done that as much as I could in my position.
I have a follow-up question, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind. Because you mentioned counselors a lot, and I'm
Yep.
the only sitting counselor here in this
Yep.
group. And, I talk to them all the time, even coming here, most of them I talk.
Sure.
So I'm not sure which counselors you're referring to. There's a saying that says, that, sometimes being an internal candidate can be it can be an advantage or disadvantage.
Sure.
So, my goal really is to have that link of communications openly
Sure.
with city councilors and city hall and Lynn Water. And, a lot of my predecessors can attest that there has been lesser communications as that. And I hope, wish and pray that if you are selected, that it will definitely be a good communication, really.
I appreciate that statement. I just, if I could elaborate a little bit, I'll give you an example. The CSO projects, the construction projects, I have always invited, and they do come. I invited the police department, the fire department, the mayor's office, the counselor of the ward, to a meeting here anytime we start a project. I let them sit here to discuss it, put their input. So that is something that I agree with you wholeheartedly, what you're saying. I really do. And I've always felt that is the best way to, as long as, again, communication, I'm gonna say it 1,000 times, communication, if you get everybody in a room and they can express what their concerns are, you can learn a lot and you can avoid a lot of problems. I have had requests from counselors to go to City Hall and speak in front of the council. I've done that, did that with the project. I've had them request to speak in front of constituents. I have done that. I have in the past with not this mayor, but other mayors, gone into neighborhoods and been involved in a neighborhood meeting where I'm inside somebody's house with a plan, going through what we can do, what we can't do, how it works. I have done all those things. So and I think it's extremely valuable.
Thank you.
Yes. Commissioner Lozey, do you have any follow-up questions?
Two of the questions were from me, and he answered
Okay.
both those, so I'm all set.
Okay. Commissioner Grace?
This is a philosophical question. If you were appointed, how would you start to, one of the first things, I expect a leader to do is to start to think of who their successor is and how they might mentor them. How would you mentor your successor?
Mentor as the chief engineer successor? Or?
No, like if you were appointed as the executive director and you knew that you were going to be moving on in 10 years, how would you start to mentor your future successor? What would you give them for words of advice, or what would you say this is important?
So I think I think I do that now with people in my engineering department, and what I do is I like to walk through all the mistakes I made, and I explain the mistakes. And when those situations come up, I said, look, this I've seen this situation before, and I've done this, and it didn't go well. So I think mentoring somebody to take over. I think it's hard for me to answer the question because I'm not in that position to learn those things. But as far as it's easier for me to do it in my position now, one of the engineers in my office, what I do is I expose that person to all the situations that they can learn from. I invite them to meetings. I let them get involved. I let them take on parts of the project, and I let them learn, and then mentor them through mistakes of that nature. For me to answer the executive director, I think that's I guess until I see that view from the executive director, that might be a little bit tough to do, but I sitting here, I do have a lot of ideas of how I'd like to change some of the things here, and some of them are going to work, and some aren't going to work, and but I have a feeling that most of them are going to work. So, I hope I answered your question. Yeah,
You did,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
I have a question. So Kings Beach has been dirty for 20 years, 25 years.
Yes.
And it wasn't until recently that the commission has really made a concerted effort to try to address it. Do you think that was the right approach, or how were you involved in that aspect of things?
Well, it certainly is a complicated issue, and the philosophy of the separation work, in my opinion, was addressing the CSO discharges, okay? And the CSO's discharges occurred 20 to 40 times a year, let's just say, okay? But that's what they wanted to eliminate. That's what the Clean Water Act forced us to want to eliminate. So what did that do? The other 40 days of the year that did not discharge, that flow was going to the plant. It wasn't going to the ocean. Changing it and having it go to the ocean all the time and then eliminating the discharge flows, I'm not sure, looking back, that equation was right, to be honest with you. That's one issue I think I have. The second issue, I think that cleaning the area It is definitely affected by urban runoff, okay? So two things that I think must be done. One, I think there needs to be an aggressive catch basin cleaning program in the Kings Beach area, okay? And secondly, street sweeping. We need to do street sweeping in that area. You know, not to beat up the city a little bit, but the city can be dirty. It needs to be cleaned. And urban runoff is a major problem. There's no question the numbers spike during urban runoff. That's part of the MS4 permit. And there is a little bit of a disconnection with the fact that the commission is a commission and not part of a DPW, which it is in most communities. And so the needs and what happens between the two agencies, the DPW, for example, to the commission, aren't lined up. And I think we've had meetings on this, and I believe that a lot of the MS4 responsibility is on the city's end. And I think the city should look at their side of it also. I tell people this, what we are in charge of are the pipes. Are the pipes running? Do they work correctly? Is there backups? But the commission can't control what flows to those pipes. And what does control what flows to those pipes is urban runoff, and urban runoff, parks, anything that would run off from a park. Those type of things, I don't think there's a lot of work being done on that side of it. I've had multiple conversations with Eric Kelly about that from Apex, and he's in agreement with me. It really needs to be a two-part system. It needs to be working hand in hand. So that's really what I think there should be a focus on. Is that
Okay.
okay?
Okay. I guess I would just say that the numbers are high regardless of urban runoff, so there's clearly illicit connections.
Yep.
And so I guess my question was, over the 20 years, again, those things weren't really addressed. And so I guess I'm
So I think the reason that was the case was that they all felt that the CSO overflows was the silver bullet. We're gonna spend all this money, we're gonna eliminate the CSOs, and we're gonna solve the problem. So all the resources went into that for many, many years. It started back in the 1990s, didn't finish till the early 2000s, and then the system was not connected until 2008. So from 1990 to 2008, there was one mission, and the one mission was to eliminate the CSOs, and that's where everything was concentrated on. So I think that's why there was such a long span that it didn't. Yeah, I hope that answers your question, but that's how I feel. Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone have any further follow-up questions? Do you have any questions? Sorry, does anyone have any follow-up questions? Nope. Do you have any questions for us?
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to thank everybody for allowing me the opportunity to interview. It's, again, I have a passion for this place. This is my community. I've been here my whole life, so I know that everybody cares about certain things. Not everybody cares about the same things, but certainly most of the things you guys care about, I do. Yep.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
You're welcome.
yep.
Thanks, Anthony.
You got it.
How was your trip?
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I've actually been in town since probably like 2:00.
Okay.
So I went
Are
to
you-
the cafe and
Nice.
drove around town
Okay.
and
Oh, that's good.
seeing the city. Well, I'm used to calling towns, but it's actually a city. And I am trying to find my pen, so I may need.
No, I
Take your
usually,
time.
Oh, Thank
No,
you.
I usually do that to Ryan. I usually steal his pens.
Ryan brought 5, so.
What do we need?
Oh, no,
We're all set.
side
Thank you.
comment about a pen.
Oh.
The fact that, yeah.
Okay.
So welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We are doing the interviews for the executive director position for Lynn Water Sewer. Robin and I met you previously as part of the screening interview process and selected 3 candidates to move forward. And so you're the second candidate that we're interviewing tonight. We're going to go through a series of 14 questions, the same questions that we're asking everybody. And then we will have an opportunity to do some follow-up questions for you, and then you have a time to do questions for us.
Okay,
Does that make that good?
sounds good.
Okay. Any questions to begin, or
No, not at all. I'm just gonna, because that
is it?
is right in the
wonky?
line of sight of yours. No, it's fine. If I
Okay.
move this way, it will, I can see.
We also have
both of-
ginger ale if you want ginger ale, or Werther's Original.
Water would be.
Water. I know we're like the water
I will
system.
take ginger ale.
Welcome to Lynn
one thing-
Water.
Yeah, yeah.
We have some
Like
ginger
when
ale.
everybody
We
said
have
no, we're not
award-winning
drinking the
water.
water. Well, hopefully if I get selected, we will be drinking the
I'm drinking
water.
Lynn Water. straight from
There you
the
go.
closet.
Same here. Yes.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask all the questions just because we've spoken before, and so it'll give the opportunity for the other commissioners to hear your answers and take notes and what have you. So, okay, great, thank you. Can you describe your direct experience and level of involvement in overseeing the daily operations of a department, organization, or agency?
Certainly. Well, if you can see from my resume, I've been town manager in a few municipalities, and I've also worked in another city of North Adams with a mayoral form of government, which is obviously similar, exactly in the same structure that Lynn is. I've worked with various departments, various agencies, from state to federal, local, regional aspects, as well as neighboring towns and communities to work and develop operational aspects. And from my resume, you can see, I mean, my strength is really in the aspect of operations and task management and getting things done and making sure processes are followed, and strategic planning is a key element in my management style as well, and making sure that some of the things get done, you know, as in doing the research in some of the projects that you have been working on, a lot of it is time sensitive as well. So, you know, you miss that one deadline and 10 other things aren't going to happen because of that one deadline. So it's important to have an organizational structure and a strategic plan in place so people move forward. It's extensive. I've worked in higher education and had a lot of similar, that's just the constituencies are different. You know, we dealt with students, and in the municipalities, it's residents, but their needs are the same. They're just a different population.
Yep.
So.
Okay. Can you describe your experience in managing a water, sewer, or wastewater facility or organization?
In all of the communities that I've been manager in, I've had under my supervision. All of the communities except for Fairhaven has been under the tutelage of the town manager. So I've had direct reports over those departments and their operations and issues and trying to move them forward. Fairhaven has a director of public works, so he oversees water, sewer, and highway, and then I oversee all of them. So not necessarily direct hands-on, but I have had in the past direct hands-on with the different departments and managing the people as well as the functionality and making sure we abide by all of the different CMRs that are regulated for water and waste management.
Can you describe your direct experience and degree of involvement in developing and managing an agency budget? Describe the size of the budgets you have managed.
Oh, gosh. I've consistently probably in higher education as well as my municipal experience managed and developed budgets. When I was in higher education, it was a division-wide budget, close to 150 million for the division. In a municipality, the largest municipal budget that I developed was 68 million, which is the towns and all of the town. And I guess I'll stick with my experiences in the municipality because it's more relevant here, and being able to utilize a lot of the functions, water and sewer, and is an enterprise fund, so it has to be self-contained, but there are some regulations as well that allows for some crossover and being able to utilize some other funds as well. So I've always managed, created, worked with the finance team to develop a reasonable budget, and strategic budget as well, because sometimes, particularly with enterprise funds being self-funded, you have to create a cushion because you're your only entity of financial resources unless you get grants and or loans from the different state agencies.
Okay. We all leave jobs for various reasons. Can you tell us about the last job you left and how and why it ended?
So the last position I held as in a municipality was in Fairhaven. I left that position because they didn't renew my contract. I am still trying to understand in regards to the dynamics of what happened. I left, I had an evaluation, my second year evaluation in January. That board voted to renew my contract. It was, the first year was a 4.0, the second year was a 4.2, and then that was in January. April, there was an election. In May, they told me they weren't gonna, this new board was moving in a different direction. And there was two new people who were now in the majority with another person on the board and decided to go in a different direction. I mean, I can speculate, but again,
No, that's fine. Yeah. Yep. Can you describe your experience managing multiple large projects simultaneously and give an example?
My entire career in municipality. As a town manager, you have to multitask. The analogy that I typically use is like I see, and as well as an executive director, and when you have multiple departments and projects going on, you're the conductor in you have an orchestra. Everybody has an instrument. Your job is to make sure they come in at the right time, the right people are there hearing if someone's off key, you gotta fix that problem, see what's going on. And so I've always taken that approach in managing, and so it's been consistent, and even in my higher education career, it's been the same in regards to managing departments and just being able to get all of the pieces in place that will either solve the problem or strategically move a goal forward to the next phase.
Got it. Are you a leader or a manager, and can you describe why?
I would say I'm both. There are times when it calls for management, and oftentimes in operational functions, you need a manager. You need someone who's going to be, this is what you need to do, these are the issues, how can we move forward, and very tactical and strategic in getting the goals forward. Oftentimes, I think I'm a leader in staff development, in trying to get the staff to reach their potential, and allowing them room to make mistakes, allowing room for that, I always tell our staff when I come into a community is that in the initial assessment where I do a lot of the introduction expectations, I talk about being on a team and supporting each other. In municipalities, it's hard because you're always trying to figure out who do you trust with this information and developing that team. And so I do a lot of that through leadership in building and supporting them and allowing them room to grow as well. In my last position, I had 4 staff members that showed potential, and I sent them, we were able to find funding, and I sent them to a master certificate program that is run through Suffolk University in the Massachusetts Associate Managers Association. And all 4 of them graduated. Ironically, one of them is now a town manager in another municipality. So that, I think, is the skill sets of a leader. You're not, you don't feel threatened by someone else coming in. And we also, one of the things that I believe in is allowing people room to make mistakes, and I always say, we need to look out for each other, because if someone, I'll let you go to the edge, but I'm not gonna have you fall over the cliff, right? So do whatever you need to do, but once you're there, we're all there to pick you up and move you back and sort of work as a team. So I think it's a collaboration of both and situational as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Can you describe your experience working with purchasing, RFPs, specifications, awarding contracts?
I am CPPO certified, so it's extensive. Since I've been in municipality, I've taken the course doing RFPs, meeting the requirements of 30B, 149. I can list them off in regards to it. Once you become certified, I think because of leaving Fairhaven, my recertification has expired, but I would hope to maintain that certification as a certified, the actual acronyms is a certified public purchasing officer.
Okay.
So bids, deadlines,
Yeah.
postings, and specs, and all of the requirements that go along with it. And I did it old school way before Zoom. So I spent a lot of time in Boston.
What is your vision for this agency 5 years from now?
I think in regards to itself is sort of, you have a lot of major capital projects and a lot of funding. I think it's important to be able to, because again, you're self-sustained. And while I was doing some of the research, finding some of the funding, like $13 million into a yearly budget for the next 30 years is a hefty pull. So where do you get those fundings, and how do you best support that infrastructure and being able to alleviate some of the burden on ultimately the payers of the system. So I think that's an important thing to look at and move forward with. And I think the other aspect for me, it was a joke, but people being able to say, and I, again, through my research in 2009, you had been awarded best water. And so being able to, people are like, hey, when you're in Lynn, you can drink the water, and people having pride in doing, I think that's always a goal in regards to it. And, some of the issues with the waste management, I think, is a little bit more challenging because of, the overflow, stormwater, and some of the older pipes.
Yep.
I live in Fall River, and we have similar issues
Yep.
because when they first built it, nobody thought
Yep.
you needed 2 separate systems because of what would, they used to also dump in the ocean. So,
Yep.
nobody realized the ramifications long term.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
How would you support and motivate the employees out in the field?
I think it's in regards to not only the field, if they're happy about what they're doing, their job, listening to them. Oftentimes, I think people don't get an opportunity. You have to do work. Sometimes you like coming to work. There are days that I don't want to walk into an office, but you go. And I think it's important for them to feel that they're a valuable entity, and if there's an opportunity for growth, development, and or an incentive recognition, it'll play out in the field in itself. When I first got into municipal government, my friends used to laugh because they're like, takes like 10 people, how many whatevers does it take to change a light bulb, one to stand, and same thing, you get it from the people that work in DPW aspects of it, because you have someone there for safety and then you have someone who's actually doing the work, and they don't understand that. And I think educating the public and the masses, when you see staff that are out, it's a cultural, it's a paradigm shift. And depending, again, I'm not here, so I don't know what the general consensus is, but sort of building and marketing a more positive outlook towards that. And I think, building a culture where if you see someone working on the roadway saying thank you, as opposed to like, move over, you're blocking, so changing those dynamics, I think. It's a slow process, but it's doable. And you start to appreciate the work because, one of the things when I started managing the water and sewer department that I realized is nobody complains about any of it until the minute you turn on the water, right? You every day you don't think about it. The minute it's brown or doesn't taste right, then everyone's affected by it. So at that point, that's the point that you need to be able to allow people to have those expectations and change those cultural norms.
How would you balance technical decision-making with public relations when residents are concerned about rates and service?
That's hard. It is.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to pay more for the same service you think you're getting, or if your mindset is it's bad service. And the state, the federal government as well, will always, in particular this field, unmandated or unfunded mandates. All of a sudden you need to clean out nitrogen, and then, but where's that money coming from? And you have to figure it out. I think it's important to allow transparency and allow people to see it and be able to understand your decision making. And that was a skill set that I learned earlier on in my career. And I think it's important for residents and the stakeholders to be able to see how you've come to the decisions. They don't necessarily have to be at the table all the time, but they need to understand how those decisions came through. And in doing so, I think we'll change some of those cultural norms. Or those naysayers, but it is tough. But I think if they understand how it's being dealt with, and also listen to, right? I wish I could do something different. If you have a better solution, I'd be more than happy to entertain it. Let's see how we can make that work in this process. And so they feel like they have some level of ownership.
What strategies do you use when trying to convince the public, an executive board, or an elected officials about the need to fund a capital project?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. What strategies do you use when trying to convince the public, an executive board, or elected officials about the need to fund a capital project?
It doesn't happen all of a sudden, right? So you sort of build up to it and develop the strategy and the strategic goal and planning. And most of it is around, I think, the collective board. What are your goals and visions? So I see my job as the executive director is to take your goals, vision, and make it and come to fruition and implement it. So it would start in regards to managing those aspects, doing data research, if it's an infrastructure issue, how long it's been out of service or could possibly, most buildings, the building authority says you got a 50-year window. 30 is really better, 50 you're pushing it. So knowing all of that and doing the research and presenting it, but also understanding that the longer, and I think most communities have felt it, they don't want to do it now, and then when they're forced to do it, it costs 4 times more than if they had done it preventatively. And sort of using the analogy the same way that now people preventatively now do oil changes, like you don't even think about it, right? 3,000 or 5,000 miles if it's synthetic, you're at the gas station. Where before, you were dragging your car to get an oil change. And so it's become part of our cultural norm that preventative is better. And if we start building in municipalities in that same mindset, I think it'll be more receptive. Again, it's a paradigm shift, and I don't know the culture here, so I'd have to see what they're most receptive about, how much tolerance, because there's a threshold, and it becomes, the mob will turn against you. So finding that sweet spot to be able to move it forward slowly. I had read a book, it talked, actually, it might have been a podcast. This gentleman came and took over a basketball team that really was like they were at the bottom of and instead of changing the entire system, he did 5 degrees, 5 degree of change with some so subtle. So 5 degrees, nobody's feeling the impact. They accepted that. And then when everybody was accustomed to the 5, he added another 5%, and then at some point they were 100% in the opposite direction without any real major, because people are resistant to change. I buy into that philosophy.
Can you tell us about a time when you challenged an established process or the way things have always been done? What was the situation? What did you do differently? And what was the result?
The biggest one I think that stands out for me is when I was in Uxbridge. I left there because I did challenge the select board. There was a municipal person, and I can say his name is Justin Cole. He was the town accountant, and when I got there, some of the things he was telling me relative to the finances didn't make sense. Like it wasn't sound. And when I'd ask for more explanation or detail, it just was mumbled. So short answer is he was embezzling funds, significant funds. The select board wanted to deal with it internally because a couple of them were buddies or friends with him and liked him. I have a strong ethical standard in regards to not only the position that I do, but I am managing public funds and accountable to the public. And so I talked to the Division of Local Services that manages municipal finances. The then director asked if I, rather than doing it with the district attorney, to do the Attorney General's office, because he was also consulting in other communities while working for us as well. And ultimately what happened is he got charged and indicted. What they could prove was $900,000 out of the community. And so because I went against the select board, and it was my first big major position as well. And I felt after going through the procurement laws, because ethics and fraud is one of the big component pieces to being certified a purchasing officer, I had an obligation to report it. There was some level of trust broken. And so I don't know that I couldn't trust them and they couldn't trust me. And so we decided to part ways at that point. What I learned from it was probably that I have a high standard of ethics. And I also learned that sometimes, I guess looking back, you process it a lot. If I had brought them in sooner, because, I didn't know who I could trust to tell the information. Was it going to get back to him? The Attorney General didn't want any, once you get the Attorney General's office in, that you can't disclose any information. And I wish I had brought them in sooner before the Attorney General, because once they got involved, I couldn't talk to anybody about it. And so I think that's where the trust eroded. And that, I would have brought them in and talked, and that's why now my philosophy is always about open and transparency. The more people you bring in the beginning, the more easily you can deal with controversy and conflict later.
Okay, thank you. So this is the second to last question.
How am I doing for time?
I mean, we're doing fine.
Okay.
We're doing fine. Pizza's coming soon too. So, Our organization needs a leader who's willing to adopt new technologies, processes, ideas to improve outcomes. Tell us about an innovation you championed, how you identified the opportunity, how you implemented it, and what the impact it had.
So I have this innate ability to see problems and solve it. I cannot verbalize it. I can use examples in regards to. It's so important and one of the things and why I applied for this position is that there's so many things that can be improved upon, and with technology as well. I am a tech geek. Short of coding, I don't code. I've been trying to get my girls to go to school for coding, but they're like, why? I'm like, because you'll be making lots of money. But they won't do it. But it's important to put it in return. And not all communities will accept a lot of change in regards to technology and innovation, right? So you have to gauge it on the community aspect of it. One of the places, like in Fairhaven, one of the things that I had done relative to, because we were at a $2 million deficit when we were developing the budget. And that's when I brought everybody in so they could see how the budget process worked, how I was making my decisions, what departments had to be cut. And in doing that, we ended up figuring out that we could do the budget, we could do a deficit relative to, I just lost my train of thought. Deficit, budget. I don't know where I was going
You
with that.
brought everybody so they
Together.
could see the process of creating the budget.
So
Yeah.
people were vested and interested, but there was a tie-in with that question, and I can't now. But anyway, so taking all of the stakeholders in and being able to see what the problem was allowed all of the naysayers to be part of the solution as well. So I think but in doing so, I also introduced a concept of like the entire town had 3 different GIS systems, and like put it all. Fire, public safety had their own, DPW had their own, conservation had their own, and in consolidating, I guess that's what the budget was, the $2 million. So finding ways so we consolidated and purchased one. We changed the website and incorporated it and made it more publicly based. I took positions that were like one finance director, when she retired, took her position and made 2 positions. Instead of assistant treasurer and assistant collector, made them both treasurer collector, appointed the accountant as the financial officer, and we had enough money to get another staff member and $20,000 still as a additional funding that cut from the budget. So we ended up not only promoting 3 people, but created another position and had I guess black lined the budget line for the department. So it's all situational in regards to it, and restructuring departments and restructuring effectiveness and efficiencies. Again, it happens innately with me because I can just see, like, it's a visual. I can see the problem and how to get to the solution. It's just bringing the people in to fill in those gaps. It's rather technology, if it's creative ways of restructuring departments. I need to know what the problem is. I ask a lot of questions. I'm constantly like, people will say, "Oh, this is blah blah." I'm like, "So why did you do that?" I sit on a board of directors in New Bedford, and they'll say things that they've done, and I'm always looking for better ways of doing it. So why did you do it that way? And it's not to challenge them; it's to get to, is there a different way we can get the same results that's less costly, most effective, and everybody has a win-win situation.
Last question, why should you move forward in this process?
Because you like me and you want to give me this job.
There you go.
I think I have the, well, but there's someone said, don't say I think. I have the expertise, I have the experience. I think my management style as well as my leadership would change the dynamic of what you're looking for. And again, based on the research that I've done and some of the position paper, the profile position that the Collins Center did, my skill sets would excel this position to be able to do a lot more in regards to managing and moving the division and the department and the sewer department into a more effective, efficient, and hopefully save money for the taxpayers and the ratepayers. I've worked in different organizations in different municipalities, so I know what works in one community may not work in another community. I have different strategy points. I understand municipal finances. I understand the restrictions that some of the city may face, but I also know as an enterprise fund, there's ways I can tap into the municipal side for some more funding in a creative kind of way. And so just moving forward. Oh, I can pause. I think they have the pizza.
Sorry.
It's a good thing.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
good thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but if the pizza wants, I want pizza. No. And I have a sense of humor because you
Of
can't
course.
show up at work and just like you want to.
You can see that.
Yeah, 90. You spend a lot of time in once, especially in the level of positions that I apply for. You need to make it fun because you're spending 10, 12, 13-hour days at work, and
Right.
if it's not fun, you're going to be miserable.
Right.
So but so yeah, so I think I'm the better choice or best choice because you have 3 candidates. Better would only be for 2. And and I also have OCD, so no. No. I think I have the qualifications, and I think that the other piece is if you keep putting people in the position that are similar to what you've had, you'll get the same results. So if you're looking for something different and moving in a different direction, then I'd be the person I would say consider highly. Thank you.
Okay, those are our set questions. Follow-up questions? Commissioner Rosie, excuse me, sorry, thinking ahead of myself. Commissioner Palucci, no. Commissioner Ellison,
Yeah, I have a follow-up question.
please, go right ahead.
So for question number 4 about we all leave jobs for various reasons. I did also review your resume and noticed that all the municipalities that you work with, it's always within the 3 to 4 year term. And I know you mentioned also some of the reasons why like that, political, whatever. We're just curious because we want to see
Yeah.
a leader who basically would stay and if that's a pattern that we're looking, I mean, how can you guarantee this board that that's a different case?
So it's not a pattern,
Yeah.
and I can explain it if you'd like. So
please do.
the first position I was in Blandford,
Yeah.
that was a part-time position, and I was going through a divorce, and
Okay.
so I needed to find a full-time job.
Okay.
So there was no way I could have sustained continuing for more than the time period my contract was for. So I moved to Uxbridge.
Yeah.
Uxbridge I mentioned in regards to I can say I defied the board. I own it. I if I make a mistake, I own it. Like I'm very. My communication is clear. I don't have any sense of ambiguity or any attempt of covering, right? So I own all of my experiences. So Uxbridge, I've mentioned. Then I went to North Adams, and when I was in North Adams, again, I go into these positions thinking they're long-term. The mayor brought me in. I was his chief of staff. after COVID, he decided he wasn't gonna run for reelection.
Yeah,
I'm out of a job.
right.
I would have stayed, but the next mayor gets to choose
Yeah.
their, so that's how I ended up in, Fairhaven, and I talked to you
Yeah.
about Fairhaven, and when my second contract was voted to be renewed, I bought a house, thinking I was gonna be there for the next 15 years. My goal and my hopes is to be in a place that I can, like, I know I do good work. I want to start to see the impact of my work, right? Instead, not someone else take the benefits and credits for all of the things that I've put into place. I want to be here long-term. I am looking at least 10, 15 years. I mean, as long as you'll have me. So I want to be there for that longevity and that long-term, and be able to put and help some of these projects that you have, in place that I've at least seen research-wise, and move it in a positive aspect and still be able to function fully.
So you said research-wise, so you research about Lynn Water. How familiar are you with our city and the organizations? Anything that you've researched about?
Oh, I'm familiar. I used to live when I worked in higher ed, I used to live in Salem. So
okay.
That
You
this is.
answered the question.
Yeah. This is, and I wouldn't say it in an interview, but the running joke was it the grime Lynn City of
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Revere, like this
Yeah.
whole area, I'm well familiar with. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Commissioner Lozey, do you have any questions?
Yeah, there's one here I have for you. If those with whom you worked over the past, say, 5 or 6 years, what would they say? What would they tell us about things you did well or did poorly?
Oh, good question. He's like, yeah, that's why I asked it. I would say things that they say I do well is that I am very detail oriented. I make sure that projects get done, things get done. Like, I'm a task person, right? I was going to say guy, but I can show you in one of the things within the years that I was in Fairhaven, I had a 5-page report, 5-page outline of everything that I accomplished in that municipality.
Yeah.
For 10 years, there was an issue that they kept on trying to work around with a new public safety building, and it sat, and within like 4 or 5 months, we got that project back up and running and looking at sites and things like that. So like, I'm not a sit around, and I hold people accountable. They would say I definitely support them if they like do their job and do their jobs well and they're dedicated to it. And if, one of the things I know that I do when I go into a community, I tell the staff, I won't pay attention to you until you give me reason to pay attention to you. And usually that reason is because you're not doing your job. If you're doing your job, no one's complaining. And so I think all of my staff knows that, and they probably see that come through. I'm not a perfectionist, but I have high expectations. Things they probably is that if I think because of that, I sometimes I don't want to say failed, but I don't see a lot of the grays. And oftentimes there's grays.
Yeah.
And so I think that might be because, once I'm like, this is what we're doing. And I'm learning how to somewhat pull back and have other voices come in and show me the grays and listen to the grays. And that's what I was talking about relative to when I did the budget and I created this committee and had all of these people come into the fold that were naysayers once they saw. And I was like, oh, wow, this really works. And so I'm learning to implement those types of processes into, because I typically look at structural things as opposed to process.
Good.
That's good. Commissioner Grace,
Not have anything?
do you have any questions? What do you think would be a particular challenge for you coming into the position of overseeing just specifically a water sewer department versus kind of a larger operation as a town administrator where, you know, that's one of multiple different pots?
Yeah.
What would you see as some of the challenges?
I don't know that it would be a challenge because it's actually a welcoming aspect for me because then I have one thing to focus on, right? Because in doing so many, like I think I used the analogy with the orchestra, you end up you're not really paying, you know, the cello's screwing up, you just tell them fix it and you're moving on. Where I think in regards to being specific and having just water and sewer, the operational aspect is the same, but I think my skill sets, because I'm very anal in regards to gaining information. I mean, I even literally looked up all of the regulations to 257 as well as 314, just so I knew what it all entailed and stuff. So it would give me more focus to better serve the community as well as the process and the system. So it might be more of a detriment to you guys because you're like, no, we have to go do something else. Like we know it's, you know, you've worked it till so. But I think that because I invest myself into it, so you'd get more out of me, more focused and concentrated. I guess if I was to look at it subjectively, I would probably introduce a lot more things that maybe you're not ready for because I'd be one focus, you know, hey, this community is doing it this way. This is a new and innovative aspect. You know, in Fairhaven, there's an island that they ended up doing a whole filtration system for wastewater underground, like in the ground, and using the ground as the filter. And so, you know, can we do it here? I don't know, but I would research it and then I'd bring it to you guys and you all look at me like I had 10 heads, but, you know, you'll have a lot more of my attention, which may be not so much the good isn't my challenge, but it might not be the best for you guys, you know?
Okay, that was a question I had. Do you have questions for us?
Yeah, I know there's, like I said, I've done some of the research in regards to some of the things that are going on. What would be your priority in this position? Because I know the last time the previous gentleman was on the committee.
The current executive director,
yeah.
Dan O'Neill, yeah.
Yeah. So, but what would be as a board, your priority? You know, I'm coming in and I'm the successful candidate. What would you, all right, Ange, this is what you need to deal with or tackle?
Well, I can offer my opinion because we'll all have different thoughts on this. I would like someone who can take a fresh look at things. I would like someone who would learn from what other communities have done. You know, Lynn's a phenomenal. I love Lynn. Lynn's a great place, and we have so many good things going for us. And I think, you know, it could be even that much more. I think there's a lot of interesting, innovative things. You mentioned, you know, Fairhaven, as we just did a UV pilot at Kings Beach trying to address things. So, like, you know, there is that desire and interest in doing things, and I think trying to kind of push that along. In addition to just communication, it's hard. Communicating is hard. Reaching people is really difficult, and like you said, most of the time you just hear from someone when something goes wrong. I'd love it if it was a bit more of a conversation at times than kind of a one-way street. That's what I would say. Anyone else want to chip into what their thoughts are?
I mean, I can just offer that, you know, I love the prospect of a fresh look on things. And, you know, at the end of the day, we serve the community here. So I think really having that relationship with the community and having that transparency and communication with the community is going to be super, super important.
Same with me. It's all about transparency and communication. You know, I'm the sitting councilor in this group, and it's important. We hear it all the time in the community. We want to be communicated. We don't know what's happening, what is happening. I said that twice. So we want somebody who's really a face and who can go out to the community and answer and bring that projects, whatever project would that be.
I think more it's experience is good, technical skill, things like that. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Thanks.
You get the gist. You get the message.
Okay, well, that concludes this interview. We have one more interview to go, and then we're gonna make a decision. So,
Excellent.
You can have
You
a
make a
pizza.
decision tonight?
that's correct.
That's
Oh,
great.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
That's the hope.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
That's the plan. Yeah, so there's pizza somewhere. Pizza, you got the ginger ale,
Yeah.
there's plates and napkins, so.
We're one big family here, so don't.
Awesome,
Yeah,
Fellow
so,
North Shore girl, so.
All right.
great.
so
Thank
thank you,
Thank
thank you for coming. Do you prefer James or Jim?
Jim's fine.
Jim's fine, okay,
Yeah.
good. Well, thanks, Jim, for joining us today. My
Thank you.
name's, well, you haven't met all of us. My name is Mike Salona, Chair of the Boards. We have, you actually met everybody. Sorry, I'm going through my list here.
That's
You already
okay.
met everybody, so that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
We have 14 questions, and we're asking the same questions for each candidate. At the end, we will ask any follow-up questions, and then you can ask us questions.
Okay.
So, just to make it consistent, I'll ask all the questions, and since I was already in an interview with you,
Yeah.
we've had a conversation, so.
Okay.
Can you describe your direct experience and level of involvement in overseeing the daily operations of a department, organization, or agency?
Well, I've had numerous different organizations that I've been over, and so Braintree was probably one of the bigger ones. I also, in city of Kissimmee, I worked down there, and it was, they had about 120 people that we worked with down there. So, I wasn't directly the manager, I wasn't the director, but when the director was out, I took over and helped out. So, but in Braintree, I was the director for 8 years, and so in there I managed 8 divisions, and then I also had financial a person that assisted me, and also another person that did help me with processing paperwork and things. So it's been it was very interesting because there was always something going on. There's so many different divisions that one thing goes wrong in one, and then that's cured, and the next one has something, and so yeah, I've had a lot of experience with management of all those types of activities and stuff, and so. And like I said, even when I was in Kissimmee and other places, I've had a lot of management experience as well. So,
Can you describe your experience in managing a water, sewer, or wastewater facility or organization?
yeah. So when I was in Braintree, we originally had a 19-some-odd-year-old plant that was current, and then there was another plant in Holbrook. Sorry. Oh, Randolph. Sorry. Randolph, the plant was about late 1800s.
Wow.
So, I've been working in the with trying to change that and try to get a new plant. So we went ahead and the board was kind of always torn, like what they wanted to do. Do they want to make just 2 different plants, or did they want to join them? And that had gone on for years and years. So one day they asked me, he says, hey, how do we go about this? And I said, well, why don't I put something together and just show you what we can do and then how we can process it. So I put together a package for the just to kind of set it out there for consultants and getting the bidding process in order. So I went ahead and did a owner's project manager proposal, and I sent it to the procurement office so they could look at it and see what's going on and what they thought about it. And so then we went to the next board meeting, which is called Tri-Town. And so because of the 3 different communities. And so when we went and met with them and we told them, what we could do, and we kind of put the package together for them, and that kind of was the seed to kind of get them to start moving in the direction of having all the communities together. And so it was a long road. There was a lot of bumps along the way. You know, so someone doesn't like this or wanted some extra funding for that, and but you know, it ended up going forward. It was during when we formally went forward. We had to get an OPM, and then we had to get the designer, and then we had to get eventually the contractor. So we started out with that, and it kind of morphed into that as well. And then so that's the experience I have with that treatment facility. That was a water treatment facility, and we are part of the community is a part of the MWRA. And so I was actually on the advisory board for that as well, for a couple of years. And then when I was now currently in Hudson, they have a different type of system. They have their sewer system doesn't go to the MWRA, it has its own system. It basically comes into the treatment plant for the waste side, and it gets cleaned up and brought to standards, and it's injected into the ground. So it's kind of interesting the way they do it. And then the water system is a little unique too. But so what they do is they have the 5 different wells that they draw water from, and then which isn't surprising. But so that then goes over to the neighboring town of Berlin that for some reason they own a lot of land of. And Braintree had a little bit of that too when we were doing our work on there too. But so anyway, so then it gets treated there and then goes through the community that way. So you get pipes going in and then going out through the whole town. It's pretty interesting. So yeah, I've had a lot of experience with different systems, and then we've had administrative orders because we had some once in a while. We had some the discharges, and you have to report that within 2 hours when you have it. Hudson's not too bad. They've only had a very few per year, but in Braintree we had about 3 or 4, but there were big discharges. That's why we got the administrative order, because they felt that you can't have that volume of discharge. And we tried to think of ways of doing it, like bring trucks and stuff like that to get rid of it, but there really was too much of a volume when it went out. So, but so we were still working on that when I left. So yeah, I have lots of experience with treatment facilities, both water and sewer. So.
Can you describe your direct experience and degree of involvement in developing and managing an agency budget? And can you describe the size of the budgets you managed?
Yeah, so the size of the budget, so it was about $40 million a year for the town, for the operating budget in Braintree. And it broke down to maybe 100 and so the 40 million was just for the operating of that, and then so that was about 12 million or 11 million, 12 million for sewer, 11 million for water, and then we had multiple entities. So we didn't just have water and sewer. We also had a golf fund. We brought revenue in, and we also had so I managed that as well. And so then we also oversaw the stormwater fund that I helped create. So we had all that. So all together, that was the funding for the 40 million of everything. So, and then we also had 5 million in capital per year. We got about 2.5 million from the state, but we also on top of that Chapter 90, and then on top of that we had another we added another 2.5 million from the town itself, and then we had another 5 million for water replacement projects. So removing pipes and putting new pipes in and things like that. So. And so when I first started, I went in there and there was a lot of disarray for the projects. Like they didn't have the funding. The previous person who was working there kind of just left things kind of in disarray. So I was told, like when I got in, that your capital budget's due in literally like a week. So I was like, okay. So so I looked through the files, I got old information, I updated it, and I got it out within a week.
Wow.
So then the operating obviously came later. They tend to be, when we were there, it was in the fall. It was when you did the capital, and then the operating was in the spring. So So yeah, I've had a lot of experience with capital, and so when I got past that, I went upstairs. I went up to a more central area too, because they kind of stuck me downstairs for a little bit. I don't know why. So I wanted to be with everybody else and make sure everybody was seeing me and I was present. So I went up there, and I got then over time through reorganizations and stuff like that, I ended up getting a financial person and all that stuff. So got multiple reorganizations. So.
We all leave jobs for various reasons. Can you tell us about the last job you left and how or why it ended?
Well, the last job I left was when I was in Braintree, and so there was it's a strong mayor form of government, which is nothing wrong with that, but a new mayor came in, and a lot of people, to be honest with you, left, and so I was one of them. So, I recently heard of another person that just left. got out. So that's it. It wasn't. I didn't take it. As a matter of fact, when I asked her, I said, "So why did you not want position?" So she basically said that I had done an excellent job and everything, and just wanted to change. So that's all.
Okay.
So there was a lot of people moving in and out. So that's what happened in my last position that I was out of. So.
Can you describe your experience managing multiple large projects simultaneously?
Oh yeah, so all the time, nonstop. Snow removal is instantaneous. You have to be on, 24/7, nonstop. So that's only one of my jobs. There was numerous. I had golf. We had some concerns about certain events that happened during the golf program, so we had to go in and mitigate that. Then we had other concerns with they have the new mattress things and all that stuff with the disposal. It became a big thing there as well, and so every division had some type of turmoil within it, and some things were good, like Braintree American. That's actually in Braintree, which was a Little League, went to Little League World Series. That was in Braintree, so that was a nice sunny spot there. But I wasn't there at the time, but I was, we were always maintaining those fields and all that stuff. So we maintained about 200 acres of fields, so it's quite a bit. So, and then all the different divisions each had its own concerns and things. So, and water and sewer was a big part of it as well, obviously. So it was an old plant, so things would break down. We'd have to go in there and take care of them and mitigate them on a regular basis. So.
Okay.
But with the new plant coming on, I think they're in good shape. So,
Are you a leader or a manager, and can you explain?
I'm a leader because I really like to lead people. I like to help people and bring them forward and let them advance and let them be, have opportunities. So I've always been the type of person who I respect everybody. It doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter what job they do. If they're doing a good job, they're top in my shelves, because I really appreciate people, what they do and how they do it and all that. Some people want to advance and want to move ahead, and sometimes people don't, and that's good too. There's no problem with that. So I always try to promote, like I said, promote within and try to help people out to advance themselves if they want to.
Can you describe your experience working with purchasing, so RFPs, specifications, awarding contracts?
Yeah, I do. I've done Chapter 90, submitted files for the Chapter 90 roadway resurfacing programs. We have all kinds of contracts we've had to put together. Obviously, when we did the contracts for the big project for the treatment plant and everything like that, we also and usually the state law says between 0 to 10,000. 0 to 10,000. You can basically just get three. We're supposed to get 3 quotes, but it's not rigorous. Then it goes to 10 to 50. Then it gets more rigorous. You've got to do some advertising on state websites and stuff like that. And then when you go over to 50, then seal bids and all that stuff. So I've been through all of that numerous times, not only in Braintree, but also in Hudson as well. I've done all of that. The Chapter 90 programs and all that, and submitted the entire packages, bid packages and everything. top to bottom. So I've managed it, and I've also done it directly, so.
What is your vision for this agency 5 years from now?
Well, I would like to, first understand what's here and what everybody has and what they're appreciative of maybe, and also maybe what things could be improved on, and try to bring it up as best I can to improve the situation. I don't know all of the intricacies of everything that you're dealing with, but I have a couple of things because I've watched a little bit of one of your meetings. So I noticed there was UV radiation. So there's a lot of illicit discharges and things like that. So I would really like to try to help with that, try to improve that program to try to get to so that there's more mitigation and more treatment. And also the employees, to look at all the employees and see what we can do to try to help them out as well. So.
Speaking of which, how would you support and motivate the employees out in the field?
So to be honest with you, a lot of times if you just go out there and you just be present and you tell them, hey, you did a great job, you're doing a good job, that really goes a long way. People really need that, and I think it's really helpful to do that. And if there's something missing, like I've done just about most things in public works, so if there's an issue, I can usually come up with something in the past that I've dealt with and kind of help that person through and try to say, hey, maybe you could do this, or maybe you can do that to help you out. It's if you got good people, you want to keep them. Really, there's no question about it, because sometimes you get bad people, not bad people, but you get people in that aren't as productive, and it can be hard. And sometimes with unions and stuff, it can be a long time before you can make any changes, which is nothing wrong with unions at all, but it's a longer process. That's all. So you want to make really those people who are doing a good job, you really want to show them some respect and tell them that you appreciate them. So.
How would you balance technical decision-making with public relations when residents are concerned about rates and service?
So usually what you do is you try to inform them of what the items, how it's going to be helpful to them. Like when I did the stormwater program, I went into the meeting and I thought, okay, they're going to crucify me. It's more money. They're not going to like this. And I made a really good presentation. I explained to them that it was for treatment of stormwater, so that when the rivers and streams can be cleaner and that fish can survive and all this stuff. And this lady walked up and she goes, I really didn't like this at all, but I think it's a good program. So sometimes when you try to show them what the function is and why you're doing what you're doing, sometimes you can actually bring them to the other side. Not always. There's people out there who just, no matter what you do, they're not going to want to change, and they're just every 10 cents is too much. And I understand that. I mean, it's not, that happens, and some people, have income problems, and I understand. But I always try to sit down with people and explain to them why it's happening and why we need this new device or this new situation, any funding that has to come additionally, and try to explain it to them. And there's a lot of times I do, it does work out, but there are some times when it doesn't work. But I've been pretty successful in the years that I've done it. So.
What strategies do you use when trying to convince the public, an executive board, or elected officials about the need to fund a capital project?
So you kind of what I said before, but
Yeah.
I think that we did a lot of that when we were creating the treatment plant, the new treatment plant. So we actually had to go to Holbrook and Randolph, and we had to kind of talk about all those things. So in that situation, it was the MWRA was saying, oh, we can do it cheaper for you, so why don't you come with us? And so, but we had to explain to them that it's actually, in the long run, it's expensive, exponentially is expensive, because you don't have any control of the rates, you don't have any control of the program, you just have to pay what it is. And I've actually tried to, within the advisory board and everything, try to ask them about exactly where some of that cost is coming from, but I think they have a Ouija board or something. But anyway, so it's definitely better to have the control as well, is what I'm saying, you know. And so I think when you bring that to their attention and you say, this is the reason why we need to have this again, you know. And so when we did that, we explained it to them, and we got convinced all those communities to do that. So that was pretty impressive, because it's not easy when you're dealing with 3 different communities, and it is an ask for additional money, substantial. So.
Can you tell us about a time when you challenged an established process or the way things have always been done? What was the situation? What did you do differently? And what was the result?
Well, there's been a lot of things I did differently. So I had 3 iterations of change. One of them was the stormwater, as I discussed. That was a big change that people didn't want to do, but I got through it. Then we also had we did a change where we created a facilities program. We had it in there, but it wasn't funded, so we brought in a facilities manager that was actually in the funding already. We brought the person in, and when we brought him in, he started really utilizing the staff that he had very effectively. And he worked for the community before. He was actually in the building department, so he knew all the regulations and laws. So what he did was, we actually had a project that we were trying to construct that was an American Legion building. It was all they wanted to do was paint the building, put some new shingles in, and get it done. So what happened was, when we went ahead and advertised for it, I mean, we were looking for advertising it and everything. The price went up, because what happens is it triggered a elevation of amount of money that was too high for changes to the building. So what happened was, they then had to change, because of ADA regulations, they had to then change the inside of the building and modify it. And then it met another threshold, so that meant an elevator had to go in, and it exponentially went higher. So we actually bid it out, and it came at like 2.2 million, just to basically replace the shingles and paint it, because no one really was complaining. So what we did was, the manager that I had went in and said, you know what, I think we can take care of this. So what happens is, they used internal employees that would go in there and do the work, regular daylight, normal time, and sometimes they give a little bit of overtime just to give them a little incentive, and they did it for under 10 grand. So the whole thing was done. They put in all new, brand new shingles. They put in really ornate stuff on the top. I mean, they loved it. They really enjoyed doing it too. They really felt pride in it, you know. And since then, they did a bunch of other projects too. So they did the Doherty Gym, which is a really old gym that was falling apart, and they went in there and they started renovating it and stuff. So then after that, and the stormwater program was done, and then what happened was, the councilors saw all that and said, wow, this is really good. This is really coming. We're doing so much here. I think we should do more. So then they promoted doing it for the schools as well, and they started doing that. So you have to do 2 things in order to do that. The town has to approve it, and then the school has to approve it as well. So they both approved it, and they moved forward, and so they ended up taking over all of the school, not only the laborers, but also the custodians as well. Because what we did was, we knew that in the summertime there'd be downtime, and so we could utilize them on projects and stuff like that. So that saved a lot of money. The high school was in really bad shape, and then some of the other schools had really serious issues too, and so they were able to really start mitigating those concerns. So it worked really well.
Nice.
So that's some of the ways I've been doing things. So.
Thanks. 2 more questions.
Yeah.
This is somewhat similar to the last one. Our organization needs a leader who's willing to adopt new technologies, processes, and ideas to improve outcomes. Tell us about an innovation you championed, how you identified the opportunity, how you implemented it, and what impact it had.
Yeah, so I had a lot of different programs I did. So one of them was and it was hard to do because we had to go through the union process too as well. But we did vehicle tracking. And so the tracking wasn't for what you would think it is, like, oh, he's here when he shouldn't be or something like that. We didn't include that. What we did was, we wanted to know that in the wintertime, especially, when they're out snow plowing, some areas, may not be covered. So by having them driving around and be able to see where they're going, we were able to capture that. So one winter I went out and I went out to look for where I always check to make sure, because that's just me, I'm a hands-on person. I like to be out there. So I went out and I checked, and I noticed that an area wasn't done, and it was getting pretty heavy in snow. It was like 7 or 8 inches. I was like, this is way too much. So the big trucks had to come in to get it out, and I was like, this ain't gonna work. We got to do something. So I instituted a program to where I met with all the unions involved, and I said, we're not trying to do anything. We're just trying to make sure we oversee these things. And so we brought it on so we could do the vehicle tracking, because we had like 28 areas that we had within the town for snow removal. And so we wanted to make sure that all those areas were covered. And so they went out and did that. And so that also, and in addition to that, we also, as part of that tracking program and all that, it also would have monitor the vehicle to see if there was a problem with the vehicle, like if there was an engine issue or if it was out of oil or something like that, that would then trigger and we would see it. So there was multiple good things to that. So, but there's a bunch of other things that I've done. So, we had, and when I worked for the golf course, we actually flew drones over the fields and stuff like that. We instituted automatic shutoffs so they wouldn't go onto the greens and damage the greens. And then we actually had goats that would go out because of poison ivy, that was a problem, and they would go out and take care of the goats. You put like fences around them and they take care of the goats and stuff. So there's all kinds of stuff that we implemented and tried to do. So there's a lot more, but I don't want to keep you on too long. So.
I need those goats at my house.
I'll say no tomorrow.
Last question, why should you move forward in the process?
I would give my complete and total, everything. I would make sure 110% that, that I would, and I would not let you down. So I can tell you that. I would definitely not let you down. I would give you 110% or 150, whatever I can. But I would give my all if you gave me the job.
Okay. All right, follow-up questions. Commissioner Calucci? No. Okay,
One question.
sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you like to see people in the industry to go up the ladder, you said?
Yes. If they want to.
Okay.
Some people are happy where they are,
I
So,
understand.
yeah.
Okay. Any questions for you? Any follow-ups?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I was reviewing your
Sure.
resume, and you basically answered what I was about to ask you.
Okay.
About you being in a big city with 40,000 population, being in the head of the department, and then moving to a city half the size
Yeah.
population, and being the second in command based in the department.
Yeah.
You answered that. I get the
Okay.
the situation.
Yeah.
But my main concern really is how familiar are you with our city? I always love to ask that question because
Yeah.
people would just apply just for the sake of applying.
Well, actually, I know it quite a bit because I grew up in Methuen, Mass. So
Oh, good.
it wasn't that far away.
Yeah, I
So we
overheard
used to
you-
go down here a lot, for drinks, and we used to the big, all the restaurants and stuff. They're really nice, and so we used to always come down, and we really enjoy the area down here. So
That's very good.
yeah,
And-
I grew up with it. So.
And how familiar are you with the organization? I know you watch the videos and all.
Yeah, I know that you have Veolia kind of manages looks like the sewer side of
Yeah.
things, and then the water part is kind of individual on their own, I think. So I don't know that much because I couldn't find a lot of resources online, but we've had a lot of the same engineering companies that you've utilized. We use Veolia in Hudson, and we
Okay.
also Weston and Sampson, Environmental Partners, Pierce Wright. A lot of the same. Because I heard one of your meetings, and so most of the companies that you're talking about I've already exposed to. So yeah, very familiar with all that too. So.
Yeah, last but not the least, so in case we're going to offer you the position, how soon can you say, like, I can do this now? Like, after
It's-
all of your,
I mean, if you need me, I would like to at least give them a couple of weeks, probably at least 2 weeks. But I don't. If there was an emergency issue and you had to have me earlier, I would think about it. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Grace?
So I was very intrigued by you talking about how you developed the stormwater fund. Do you mind just talking about that a little bit more?
Oh, sure, yeah. I actually, when I was in Florida, I had helped implement the stormwater program there too as well. So I had a lot of knowledge about what was going on and how it acted and stuff. So they started out with making it almost no funding for it, and then they I helped push that along and get the funding to actually materialize down there, and then so I know how to do it. I know it's based on the impervious areas, and and we started off with a program where we in Braintree, the one in that one we did it kind of over time, and then the one in Braintree we actually took it 3 stages. We started off with $25 per year, and then we went to $45 per year, and then $60 per year. So we did that over 2 years individually. So you would start at the lower amount, then 2 years later, and it wasn't all at once. It was split between the billings of water and sewer. So we would do the billings, and then it broke it up even less. So the amount wasn't a lot for the bill. So they looked at it and said, "Oh, that's not that much." And then these days you see like line transaction fee and energy fee or something. There's all kinds of fees in there. So they decided, "Oh, this is another fee," So it didn't really materialize with that too much. But we also had to do a lot of work because we had to generate all the impervious areas and break it up into each individual lot and how much each had. So I worked with the consultant to kind of put that together. And then I made a rough estimate of what I thought would the prices would be, and came out, and it pretty much came right on the dime. And we didn't have really much negative comments. There was a couple that were like maybe 2 or 3 that came in and said, "Well, I don't like this at all. It's horrible. Why are you doing it?" But you're always going to get a couple. But overall, it went very well. We really didn't have any concerns or issues. The big thing with stormwater program that you want to do is you want to make sure that you are constantly updating it, because you don't want to have it where the impervious areas are changing here and there and you're losing money, or you're making people pay for something they shouldn't be paying for, in both regards. So you have to really keep that up. And that's the same thing with any type of enterprise fund, with water and sewer or anything. You want to make sure that you're constantly updating it for your fees, and having consultants to help you along with that too as well. So.
Great, thank you. And just kind of a follow-up to that, so I couldn't help but notice that you said, you tried to find some information, but you couldn't online.
Yeah.
Maybe what are some things that you did during your time in Braintree to make sure that the information was out there and make sure the community could get information on things?
Yeah, so, we always advertised we've always put in everything that we could about our programs that we were working on. And so with the town, I think they had a pretty good program of trying to get the information out. We also had reactionary things, like if someone had a concern, they could call it in or tell us and stuff like that. So I think sometimes, I just meant that I didn't know completely what was going on, but I do understand the basics of what your program is. But I think that it's the more information, the better, in my opinion. It's transparency. Is always good to be transparent about things and to keep that information out there. So however you want to do it, you could do it multiple different ways. You could do it online. You can, have public events and stuff like that, because we've done a lot of those too as well. And it's always hard to really get the information out sometimes because people are, they're busy and they're doing other things. So, but it is helpful, I think. So.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lozzi?
No, I'm good.
No follow-up question? One question I had,
Yeah.
for the vehicle tracking,
Yeah.
which maybe sounds different than what it was or is, but
Sure.
like, how did you work to get staff that weren't worried that you were gonna be using it to see where John's going when he driving all over the place or whatever? Like, how did you work with the unions or work with
Yeah.
the staff to?
With the unions. I mean,
Okay.
I managed altogether about 7 different unions, so I'm very familiar with unions. So that was the ASME union. So when we went with the ASME union, we basically told them, we put it in the contract. So what happened was, it was during the time of the contract renewal. And so when we did the contract renewal, we put it in there and we put stipulations that it couldn't be used to punish and things like that. So that made
Got it.
them feel comfortable that there wouldn't be any issues relative to that. So,
I got a question. Is that a GPS tracker?
yes, yep. Just like you use in a vehicle or whatever. You know.
Well, they have that in Lynn on the plows now.
Oh,
Yeah.
do they really?
They can actually do a lot of things too. They can see whether a device is moving, a part of the vehicle.
Yeah.
They can do all kinds of different things. They can monitor the different functions of all the vehicles and stuff. So it's pretty helpful. So
Can you describe a little bit the Tri-Town piece, the water plant that had to be built?
Yeah.
Can you just describe a little bit of the working with the other communities? Because every community had to agree to that plant,
yes,
essentially?
yes, they
Yeah.
did. So so we went to each of the communities and we talked with them and got them to agree to doing that. But it wasn't much of an issue because their plant was from the 1800s. So the late 1800s. So and they had some issues with their facility, not ours, but on their side, and it actually like failed really bad. I guess there was something happened, and they had the actual area where a lot of the treatment was provided was higher up than another where the electrical area was, and not a good mixture.
Okay.
So, so it blew out all of the electrical system and everything, and they had the temporary pumps and all kind of stuff was going on over there, and it was pretty bad. So, they had to get going. They needed immediate treatment, you know. So they were kind of allowed to be on the edge of being, you know, regulation, you know, but they were close to it. So then they. You know, so they were pretty much on board with trying to do something to get that out of the way. And then, you know, it worked well. I mean, we did a great treatment plan. I put a lot of redundancies into things too as well. Like they were going to put one pipe in across, and I said, no, you should put two because if you need to maintain one, you have the other. So we made sure they did that because it's going across the lake and actually sink it with ballasts and stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting way they did it. So. And then I provided an area because with stormwater treatment, there's always something new that comes down the road, some other type of activity that's required or something like new regulations. So I put it in there that they would also be there was like a driveway that went around the treatment plant. So I said, let's widen out a section of it, maybe 20 feet or so in case there's additional needs in the future. So I built all of that in too as well. And I think it was going when I left, things were going very well. Most of the walls were up, and they were moving forward pretty well. So, but yeah, it was difficult to get everybody on board. There were some people that were dissenting, but they knew how bad it was on their side. On our side, we the town was very positive about it. So,
Okay. Do you have any questions for us?
just the UV stuff. I noticed you heard some of that. How has that been working? Has there been any progress with that? Or?
So, in a very short summary, so it was utilized to treat the stormwater, primarily outflow, from two different outfall pipes that discharge onto our only public beach in Lynn.
Okay.
And it has done that for years. The discharge is not new.
Okay.
But it's always had elevated levels of bacteria in it. Less so since the CSO project was finished about 20 years ago. But there's still illicit connections, or anyways, it's a whole other process to try to find those parts.
Yeah.
So they put in a temporary UV system as a pilot to see if it would work, just like conceptually as a project, if it could handle the water coming down the pipes.
Yeah.
Because it drains a decent section of Lynn. And it was successful at treating the water, and the beach was open much more than it has been in a long time.
Yeah.
There were some, problems came up with it, as you can imagine, trying to treat stormwater, and then also when the tides roll in, because it actually pushes the salt water up the pipe.
Yeah.
So there was,
Wow.
and then it got clogged with seaweed at one point, and so there was,
Wow.
but it was, I think, the important piece of that is it's been a joint effort with the town of Swampscott. So that's kind of the reason mentioning Tri-Town is just because it's an area where we're working with another community to
Yeah.
try to address something that's long-standing. So.
Yeah, I heard some mention of Methuen or something in one of your meetings. I was like, what?
No. Well, Methuen Construction, I think
Oh,
I think
Methuen
that's,
Construction.
I think
Oh,
that's
okay.
one of our contractors.
I see.
Yes, no. Yeah, do you have
okay.
any other questions?
No, I think I'd really like to work for this facility, and I would really appreciate it if you would give me an opportunity.
Thank you. So you're our third interviewee, not 10, as Coco said. So you're our last one.
Okay.
So we thank you for coming, and then we're going to start our deliberations in a few minutes.
All right, thank you. I
So
appreciate.
thank you.
Appreciate the
Safe
interview.
travels.
Thank
Trace,
you.
safe travels back.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
Nice meeting you all. Do you mind if I take that?
Very nice.
Nice to meet you.
First thing I'd like to say is I'm happy with the three people that we had before us today. I think they were three good candidates, and so I'm happy that we had the process and we got to hear from each of them. So I thought that was really good, and it's helpful to hear from them, and then also try to think of the differences and the similarities between them. So as I mentioned earlier. The first thing we're going to do is go around and have commissioners name their top two candidates of the three that we just met with. And then we'll go back, and then you can identify your top candidate and then the positives for why you think they're the top person. So, Rich, I'm just looking at you. If you'd like to go first.
You're the senior.
James and Anthony.
Okay. Let me just write these things down. Yep. Coco?
James and Anthony.
Okay. Write this down. What's this in? Robin?
It's a lot of notes.
I know.
Yeah, do you need a minute?
It's tough. Yeah, come to me last.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm still kind
Vinny?
of digesting all this.
Yeah, I would say James and Anthony.
Okay. I would go with the same.
I'm gonna say James and Angie.
Okay. Hold on for a second. Okay. All right. So, okay, Rich, who is your top choice? Who is your top choice, and what were the positive things that you think why you have that?
Because he's been here for 35 years. As Jim just said, he'd like to promote someone inside the company, which would be Anthony. He's knowledgeable, as you know. He knows what he's doing, and he'll be a good director. That's what I believe.
Okay. Coco?
My top choice is Mr. Arsenal.
James?
Yes, it really pushed me to my heart when he said, I will not fail you, I will not let you down. I like the sincerity. He knows his stuff, he talks the talk, and he answered all the questions that I thought he would answer, be expecting the right answers for that question, so he's my top guy.
Okay. Robin?
You can tell
Oh, do you
that.
want to come back to you again? That's
No,
fine.
I can talk. I mean, I liked all three of these candidates, and all of them I would be happy with. I think they would all make good executive directors. If I had to go with one, I would probably go with James. I got a sense that he's been in a leadership role. He's a leader. And I think that's really what we need right now is somebody that has that experience.
Okay. Vinny?
Yeah, I would go with Anthony as far as the experience that he's had. I mean, he hasn't had a chance. Dan O'Neill's been our executive director for many years. Anthony could actually be our fresh look to the future. I think he's got decades of experience. He's got good ideas. His technical skill is there. He's a top in his line of engineering. he can actually be the fresh perspective that we need. And it's very valuable. I think we have that in Anthony. And he just hadn't had the chance to show his leadership, and I think he'd be great at it.
Okay.
For your tiebreaker.
Oh, well, we're all individuals here. I would say my vote for top pick would be James. I just think he's had the experience leading an organization like a DPW for a number of years. He was involved with complicated multi-community drinking water issues. A lot of experience speaking in front of the public, speaking in front of others, getting people and communicating with them. And I feel like that's the skill set when we had in our, one of the job postings, the things we were looking for was a demonstrated ability to perform executive leadership functions. And I think he's been given the chance or has taken the opportunity to do those and show that kind of experience. Again, I think all three of the candidates were strong, and to your point, I think each of them could do the job. But for me, that would be my preference.
So how do we move this forward?
So if someone wants to make a motion to recommend that person for the position, and that the chair and the board attorney will enter into a contract negotiation with them, that would be the way to move this ahead. I can't make that motion.
All right. Do we feel like we've discussed this?
And I think, so once we make that motion and then it gets seconded, then we can discuss it even further if we want
Let me
to.
ask a question. If it's a lot to digest here tonight. This is the first time that we met the three candidates, well, the two of the candidates. And I almost feel like we're being rushed into this thing, and I don't understand why we have to make the decision tonight. There's probably a lot for me to go over before I can make a decision, actually, but I do know that Anthony has what I'm looking for. I just don't know if we're being rushed into it. Seems like a lot.
I would say it's a lot, but it's also what from my perspective, it's what we're charged with. We had their resumes. We had a conversation with them. We have identified who we think is the preferred person. People are looking for other employment opportunities, and so if we have a feeling of who we're gonna be with, then to me it makes sense, as opposed to convening in another week or tomorrow or whatever. We have an executive director who stayed on as an interim, I think, longer than he expected. And if whoever we bring into this position, it's going to be several weeks before they even are able to land. So,
I'm with Vinny. Maybe we can, next Monday or something, or just because it is a little quick.
I understand, but why are we doing this? Because Anthony did not get the
vote.
vote?
If it's there, it's there.
Yeah.
I just, like I was saying, it was a lot for me to digest.
yes,
Yeah.
Put it together. And
Yeah, I don't want to be
I
this
took
redundant.
notes, but I'd like to
Yeah.
go home and think about things, maybe I'd get a different perspective. But, right now, my vote would be with Anthony.
yeah.
And it's not gonna change things, so.
Yeah.
Move forward.
Yeah, just roll call, right?
Yes. So someone would need to make a motion to recommend someone, and then recommend X for the position, and that the chair and the board attorney, who's Sam, will enter into contract negotiations with them.
All right. I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with James, I'm going to butcher his last name. Arsenault, thank you. And that we forward a recommendation to the attorney to enter into negotiations.
Second,
Okay. Any further discussion?
we can still, Anthony's still our chief engineer.
Right.
He's still one of the leaders of these organizations, and we value him, we appreciate him. But I personally think that this institution needs a fresh leader, an idea. This guy, I could just look at his eyes and just
Well, fresh-
see that
Fresh
sincerity.
ideas are like,
But we
gotta look
voted
at-
already.
We have it,
You
yeah.
gotta look at other
Yeah,
things too,
yeah.
you know?
I mean, I appreciate that. I mean,
Morale and stuff like that.
there was
It will
something
happen.
that Anthony said that I did appreciate, and that maybe he did have some ideas and he wasn't able to institute them because of, you know, the
Yeah,
leadership
he's
at
not
the
the
time.
boss, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I could appreciate that. There was, and I still think he would be a great executive director.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not opposed to him at all. I just want to make sure that's on the record. Everybody else talked about the communities. I never once heard him talk about the community.
Yeah,
You know, that's our mission. We're here to serve the community.
yeah.
Okay.
We voted.
No, we haven't yet. Don't leave yet, Coco. We have to actually, yeah. All right, so all in favor of the motion, or in favor of the motion, Commissioner Ellensung?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Calucci,
No,
Commissioner Grace,
Yes.
Commissioner Lozey,
No,
Commissioner Salona, yes. Okay. Someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. That's it.
Yeah, I left my office.